It's been a little while since I had last made a video, and that's just because I've been busy, working on my video game development business, and I'm not going to get into that too much, but yeah, I just wanted to get back to making a few videos, seeing what's going on in the world of technology today, and at the moment, the thing happening is, of course, the 5070. And that's something that I just kind of wanted to talk about in this video because I have some thoughts on it. Now, I'm not going to do an overview of what the card is or, who it's for necessarily, because you have people like Linus and Tech Jesus and everyone for that sort of thing. So I'm just going to talk about my thoughts on the card and, more specifically the pricing of the card, because to me that is a bit strange. So in America, one of the good stores to get tech, as far as I'm concerned, is of course Best Buy, because of the sales that they sometimes run, and because of just availability for the most part. Now there are a lot of other stores, but this is just an example at the end of the day. And I've been having a look at pricing now, specifically pricing for the 5070 and the 5070 Ti. The 5070 Ti on Best Buy is for a cheaper SKU, which is the PNY one, and even the Asus Prime one, is about $750, which is no small chunk of change. And when you look at the 5070 base, which I don't see here, but I saw it earlier, that is about $500. Now, the 5070 is a strange card because it's, and like I said, there are other videos for this, but it's right between where it doesn't need to be. But according to NVIDIA, it is exactly where it needs to be for gamers. And they might be correct, because if you are someone that is just playing games, someone that is not, as you say, a tech enthusiast per se, you don't really care that much about the specifics, the specifications of the card. You care more about what the card can actually achieve. Whether that is through AI technology or not doesn't matter to the layperson, so to say. And I think with that, NVIDIA are not wrong, but I do think in their marketing and in their presentation of the card, they not only lied, but they misportrayed what the card is going to be exactly, and they sort of said, a 5070 is equal to a 4080, which it just isn't. And what they meant specifically is, of course, in gaming performance, when you do end up using the AI technology, such as the new advanced DLSS. And that's the thing with these cards, is the new DLSS and upscaling technologies. These are impressive, and they definitely have a part to play in modern gaming. As I'm the kind of person that doesn't necessarily like these technologies, because I think I see them sort of as a shortcut when it comes to getting better performance. But then at the end of the day, if the game doesn't end up looking that much worse when you're talking about artifacting and anti-aliasing problems and stuff like that, if these technologies come to a place where it is it's never going to be one-to-one, but if it is going to be a close comparison at some point, and that is where it's getting with the new AI, there is a point where these technologies become acceptable to me, because they do end up saving on power and they do end up saving on money. Well, that's the idea, but that's the thing. They take advantage of that fact. But at the end of the day, it is a card for gamers, and most gamers are going to be using those technologies. And I say that because even though I don't like those technologies, I find myself using them when I have to. So an example for me is my PC downstairs, that is, my console equivalent PC. It is not the strongest PC in the world. It's older technology. It has a 2070 in it. And I find myself having to use DLSS and these technologies to be able to play games comfortably at 2K. And so well, I shouldn't say 2K. People are going to get mad at me again. I should say QHD. Anyway, I find myself using those technologies because at the end of the day, I would rather have a smooth playable experience that has a bit of artifacting at 2K than a pixelated experience at 1K because of the size of the TV. And I think a lot of people are going to see it that way. And most people, aren't like me and probably you, where they care about the specs, they care about the performance numbers, the benchmarks, how the card does, how much power it uses, the manufacturing process. But most people are just going to have a long day at work, sit down and play Call of Duty, and they want to do it at the best frame rate possible for the lowest amount of money possible. And I think NVIDIA knows this, and AI isn't going anywhere, and these technologies are going to be embraced by the wider general public. So, that's my base thoughts on the 5070. Now, if we look at the pricing, the 5070 Ti, this card makes a bit more sense. It is expensive for what it is, but it is a 16 gig card, and that's another thing with the 5070 that I didn't mention, is it is only a 12 gig card, and that is also strange because that is the lower end of new cards when it comes to the amount of VRAM. So it's touted as let's say an entry level higher class card, if I can put it that way, but yet it has mid-level VRAM, and performance at rasterized performance is mid-level. So the only thing that pushes it to be a higher spec card is the AI technology. But then when you look at the 5070 Ti, it has 16 gigs of VRAM. Of course, these are GDDR7 cards, but that hasn't proven to make that much of a difference yet. And this one makes more sense because, okay, it is more expensive, but if you can find a way to wait for this one to drop to maybe around $650, it becomes a much more interesting prospect because of the amount of VRAM that it has, and the rasterized performance is much better on the Ti. And I think the Ti is really what the 5070 base should have been. Now, looking at the pricing, it is $750 for an entry-level one like this, but you do get more expensive ones, obviously. But then you ask yourself, for another $250, you could get a 5080. So it is perfectly in between a 5070 and a 5080 then in terms of pricing, so you have to give it to them. But me being a South African has now looked at the South African pricing for this, and this is concerning. So a base 5070 in South Africa is now 15,000 Rand, which doesn't sound that bad if you just take it at face value. But if you consider that this card costs $500 overseas in America, for me overseas, for most of you that's going to be home, but it's $500 in America. So, where does the extra, 5,000 Rand effectively, which is basically $300, where does that come from? And that's where, I'm not going to get into politics, but we all know what's happening in the world. So, yeah, it becomes a weird thing now where the pricing of graphics cards is just in such a weird place, and I feel like the whole thing, if you let me say this, if you are using a graphics card that is relatively modern, I think you're going to have to use it for a while yet. If you are an average income person like myself or like most of us, you can't just spend $500 at the drop of a hat. Like you don't have that disposable income to just do that. Maybe $100, maybe $200, but not $500. Very few people can actually do that. Not to mention $750. So, and I know you can sell your old card and make up some of that deficit, but it's difficult to do when you're just an average person. So my thoughts on the card is unnecessary, not good enough really, doesn't deliver what it should and what it says it does. I don't think it's useless, because I do think that there are going to be a lot of gamers that find value out of it for what they need specifically. And I think for the wider audience, there is a bit of a use case, but I just think that waiting for specials and waiting for the price to come down is the only thing that makes sense for this generation of NVIDIA. And that's just something that we've been seeing a lot. I think for this generation, if you're looking at a new card, I might look at AMD. Now, for me, I need NVIDIA-specific technologies for my work, unfortunately, so I'm stuck with it. But I'm on a 3070 and I'm not going to upgrade. There's just no reason to right now, because this isn't good enough for the price, and that's what it comes down to. So thank you for watching. I'm going to try and be a bit more active on this channel again. It's been a tough few weeks, but yeah, it's an interesting time in the tech world right now, and I'm going to try and make as many videos as I can. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.